What I have to tell you guys, just more broadly speaking, rich people problems, it's real. I believe in rich people problems. I have subscribed to that since I was a child. Like, I have realized that they just live different. Like, the things that happen when I would just like visit a rich friend's house that just could have never have happened in my house, the way they talk to their parents. You know what I mean? If I'm in the car and they're like, "Shut up, mom." I'm like, if I said that to my mom, how the speed at which a shoe would have hit me, it just is incredible to me. Okay. So when I see certain things that are happening, I'm just like, these are rich people problems. And I like to step into them and try to understand them and be sympathetic to them, not empathetic, but sympathetic to them. And so this RFK Senate hearing is something that I have been invested in. And by the way, RFK Jr., huge reason why Trump won, obviously, because people that were more moderate, who maybe were like, I hate Donald Trump, were brought over to like the MAHA game, Make America Healthy Again. They liked RFK Jr. as a moderate candidate, not too far left. And I think that's kind of the direction that America is going in general, which is kind of refreshing. Like, we're trying to find out what it is that we have in common. And right now, one of those things is that we don't want Justin Baldoni to go down. Okay, fair. So he is now scheduled to appear before a Senate panel tomorrow. It is going to be crucial to advance his nomination. He will appear in front of the Senate Committee on Finance, and they will ultimately be the committee that decides to vote on whether he will be nominated to be the next Secretary of Health and Human Services. Now, I just want to let you know that these cousins are out of pocket these days, okay? I don't know what's going on here, but his cousin Caroline decided to release a video on X, okay? This is President John F. Kennedy's daughter released a video on X in which she rips him and talks about all the reasons why he should not be nominated to this position. This is some family drama. You don't do this. You don't do this in front of the scenes. This is not right, okay? No ethics here. Rich people have no morals right now. I'm going to let you listen to what I felt was the most interesting part of her testimony against his nomination. Take a listen.
I've known Bobby my whole life. We grew up together. It's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets, because Bobby himself is a predator. He's always been charismatic, able to attract others through the strength of his personality, his willingness to take risks and break the rules. I watch his younger brothers and cousins follow him down the path of drug addiction. His basement, his garage, his dorm room were always the center of the action, where drugs were available, and he enjoyed showing off how he put baby chickens and mice in a blender to feed to his hawks. It was often a perverse scene of despair and violence.
So that threw me for a loop, and I know that I should be focusing more on the content of her words, but I need to focus on her saying that he is just throwing chickens and mice in a blender. Because I just said to myself, wait, what? What blender is this? As someone who cooks, and I'm going to ask you guys, okay? If you cook like I cook, what blender is it that is just casually blending up full chickens? How is this working? Okay, how is he just throwing chickens and mice into a blender to give to his hawk? She says, again, we're now graduating to a new world of rich people. They've got pet hawks and they're feeding them stuff out of a blender. But I went, wait a second, isn't he also really old? He's also really old, and he would have been in college. As she says, that this happens in his dorm room, or his basement, his dorm room. In what, the 70s? He would have been in college. What's the year, Skylar, that RFK Jr. was born? Was he born in like 54? Okay, so we're talking about 1975-ish. Even sooner, that when he would have graduated college or been in a dorm room, grinding up baby chickens and a mice for his pet hawk, right? And so I asked them to pull up, is this like old technology? Is this like why we never went back to the moon? The technology is just lost? Because I like a blender that strong. It doesn't exist, okay? It doesn't exist in my book. I can't even sometimes blend the amount of vegetables that I have. And yet he's out here, maybe this is like a blender for rich people, blending up chicken. So we looked it up. This is the 1975 Sunbeam blender. This was the best technology that they had for him to be grinding up chickens and grinding up mice. So I'm not saying that it's ethical to do that. I'm just questioning her narrative because she's not under oath that he did that. And if there is a blender that's strong enough to do that, If it's not lost technology, I'd like to know what it is, okay? So she goes on, and I want to hear you guys tell me if you think that that's true. I'm looking at the chat right now, and we're all wondering okay, this person says that their Vitamix F's crap up. Really? Yeah, but not in 1970. They didn't have Vitamix in 1975. Yeah, see, this is very shady. I'm gonna tell you right now, if RFK starts selling blenders, I'm buying it. Okay, that's my main takeaway from what she said right there. I'm buying whatever blender it is that he puts his name on. But let's get to the more serious part of her allegations, discussing the fact, of course, that he is anti-vax, as yours truly is as well. Take a listen.
And now we know that Bobby's crusade against vaccination has benefited him in other ways too. His ethics report makes clear that he will keep his financial stake in a lawsuit against an HPV vaccine. In other words, Bobby is willing to profit and enrich himself by denying access to a vaccine that can prevent almost all forms of cervical cancer and has already been safely administered to millions of boys and girls.
This lie bothered me so much. So you guys know my backstory of how I became anti-vax. I was actually one of the many women who were injured by the HPV vaccine, the Gardasil vaccine, had a mini seizure right in the room. And they told me not to get any more of the series, because it was at least a 3-part series. And so it was the thing that woke me up. So I did extensive research on this vaccine. And this woman is just out here lying. She's lying about the success of the vaccine. She's lying about, the amount of women that you will see that speak out about what happened to them after they got that Gardasil vaccine, because we were told that it could, as she is saying, prevent HPV, which leads to cancer. First and foremost, HPV in over 90% of cases clears up by itself, okay? It's an STI that's very difficult to understand because it didn't exist when I was super young, but then suddenly they roll out this shot and they're like, yeah, everyone has this. And sometimes if you're a part of the 2% of people who it doesn't clear up with automatically, it might lead to cervical cancer. And I actually did the math on my Shot in the Dark series. And this is like one of the first episodes, which I'm so happy to tell you guys, Shot in the Dark is coming back tomorrow. It's one of the first things that I showed people is how they lied and how there has been no decrease in those cancers. And those cancers in general are extremely rare. And yet they were able to force this vaccine on first all women and then all men. Magically, they were like, actually, it could even help men. It is one of the most obvious examples of big pharma fraud. And so to hear her repeating these talking points as someone who was injured, I was so frustrated. We just got women out here right now lying. They're just telling lies. Like we cannot trust the science of women right now. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying all women lie. I'm saying too many of them are being caught in lies. Too many of them are on camera lying. Too many of them are texting with their homies about dragons and actually having their husbands. Like we're just catching them in lies left and right. And this is why I say, right, I don't believe women. I don't believe men. I believe facts, okay? And it is so important for us to tether ourselves to the reality that there are people who will stab their own cousins in the back to get ahead, okay? There are people who will take advantage of a male feminist who is way too nice, so that they can get ahead. There are people like Brandon Sklenar who will have worked with someone who was nothing but fawning over them and kind and stab them in the back if they think that it means that they can be cast in a bigger movie and a bigger project, which, by the way, Brandon Sklenar, who's also on my list, he's on my list. I'm checking it off, checking it twice. But, he's the actor that openly mocked Justin Baldoni on his own film. He did recently get cast by a director who directed Blake Lively in A Simple Favor. So I do feel that he did this as a leg up and